It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans made another trade earlier today, sending linebacker Ernest Jones IV to Seattle in exchange for linebacker Jerome Baker and a fourth-round draft pick. Titans acquired Jones just this past offseason in a trade with the L.A. Rams. This comes, of course, after the news this morning that the Titans are trading wide receiver Deandre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. In exchange, the Titans get a fifth-round pick that could become a fourth-rounder. At the moment, the Titans have 8 draft picks for the 2025 NFL Draft. Titans are also preparing for a trip to Detroit to take on the Lions Sunday. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It's cover 2 here, and with Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. A little bit of new theme music. We'll see what the people think. We're going to be trying out some theme music these next few days to kind of figure it out, but I kind of love it. As the Safari song by Greta Van Fleet. So, great band. If you are not familiar with them, you should check out that song. But guess what? 615-737-1045 for all your Titans trade reactions on as they head into week 7 of the NFL, which is kind of crazy to say that the Tennessee Titans have done 2 trades 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Oh my gosh, it's just.
When was the last time that ever happened? 2 trades?
I mean, by the Titans, the only trade they did last year was Kevin Byard. I can't remember many trades like that during the bye week, but obviously, I think we all know what this signals, that while they are still going to try to win games, coaches coach, players play, and as Brian Callahan said, they all have contracts still to play for. So they're still trying to win, but this is the business side of football. You're a 1-5 team. People calling for some of your prized pieces. According to Ian Rappaport, he says that the Kansas City Chiefs started making contact around midnight Central Standard Time, I believe, is KC's time zone. I'm not exactly sure, but whatever midnight is in KC compared to what it is here. And they came calling, got the deal hammered out quick. I woke up this morning and I was making sure I wasn't getting got by like a fake Schefter account.
Ooh,
and
so early, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I was right on it. I'm an early bird, so I saw it early. I was like, ooh, it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
It was insane that we saw that, but it makes sense. It's something that we've been talking about since Rashee Rice went down with injury, right? Mm-hmm. Hollywood Brown, heck, even when Hollywood Brown went down with injury, people on the airwaves were talking about DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, this should come as no surprise. The Tennessee Titans trade DeAndre Hopkins, and they eat a measly $2.5 million that they were going to have to pay him anyway as part of the deal. If DeAndre Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps and makes it to the Super Bowl, that fifth-round pick turns into a fourth-round pick. So, I know people are kind of a little I think some people have said this is terrible trade because of the restrictions on the pick. But listen, DeAndre Hopkins, one of the healthier wide receivers to come through the NFL over his entire career. Takes good care of his body. He's going to play all the snaps as long as he stays healthy. To me, I look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I already had them in the Super Bowl before this trade. This defense, we hear this about the Kansas City Chiefs the last 2 or 3 years, like they start off slow. Well, they're technically starting off slow, but they're winning games. And now they have added DeAndre Hopkins to the mix. I always thought they were still going to go to the Super Bowl. There's just something about the Chiefs. The three-peat seems to be on the front of their minds, and they always get better as the year goes on. To me, this is a trade that makes total sense for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I gotta say this there in the chat, man. Stoney Kelly here. My wife woke me up at 6 a.m. and whispered, D-Hop got traded. As if we aren't only two people in the house.
Well, you don't want to wake up the cat.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was too, man. No, I think everybody in the industry really here who's, covers the Titans, first, player to come to mention, not because he's not a good player, is that I thought he had the most value. Saw a lot of receivers getting traded and everything else. He's having, not going well on offense. So you can't look at his stats. Then he missed, some game, and he was injured there a little bit, nicked up with the knee. So I'm excited for him personally, because when you're at where he's at in his career, where he's a 12-year veteran who potentially has a shot at making the Hall of Fame, you want to go out on a good note, even if it's you got 3 or 4 more years in you, being a wide receiver that you get to play with. Probably is going to go down as the best quarterback ever in Mahomes, and an offense, and Andy Reid, who I played under, one of the best offensive play callers in NFL history. So he'll find a way to fit him in there, and he's a chain mover, and he also can get deep. That's what everybody talks about. He doesn't have speed, and I'm one guy when we traded for him, I liked him, but he was different in that he's real precise. He's a big target, long wingspan, and a red zone magnet. So he knows how to find the open spaces in zone too as well. So I think that all fares very well for the Chiefs and Mahomes, who kind of scrams around sometimes and then, ad-lib plays. So I think that's where D-Hop is at his best. So, man, I'm excited for him. And he had to be the first guy to me that had the most upside to be traded, value-wise. And you knew something was up when they weren't putting him in at the end of the game. That was the obvious. That never has happened. I don't know what I'm going to say. No, lie they made up, because they said it was something about his leg.
It said that a lower leg injury he was told by the staff that he was sore and could not go in.
Do you believe that?
I have no reason to not believe it, to be honest with you, because Brian Callahan has been nothing but honest. Now, whether that is true from Deandre Hopkins' side, that maybe he was...
Oh, I didn't talk to Hop.
I mean, I think that is what Brian Callahan was told.
Right. I don't know
whether that was true or not. I mean, that's a little
there's
bit
a
different.
big, statement that I live by. Your mouth can say one thing, but your actions tell us what you're really thinking. And their actions, I had never seen anything like that. And I first immediately thought they're going to trade him because it happened out of nowhere. And I think some people saw D-Hop a little upset throwing his helmet on the sideline during that time. I know people in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And so, and then to go stand next to him. Now, if you're injured, you're probably going to go down towards the end. You're not going in. He's like letting everybody know, I am available. That's what that did. And that's how a true pro veteran plays it out, because you're not going to play me. I play you because I know I can go out there.
So you're buying into the conspiracy theory there. Because, that's technically what it is.
Yeah, well, you can call it what you want, but your actions tell you if he was injured, he wouldn't have laced up and pull up his chin strap and said, I'm ready to go in.
But wasn't it kind of just dangling on his head?
No, at first it was. No, I said laced up, and then he tightened it up like, I'm ready to go. Yeah. Right, because he knows people are watching.
But to be fair, that's also at a minute 53 left in the game, and the game's out of hand too.
I don't buy it. Everybody else was out there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so why wasn't he?
Because DeAndre Hopkins is a little bit different than everybody else. Because he was apparently, unless the staff is lying to Brian Callahan, or he is saying that he isn't sore, doesn't have a lower leg issue, then that's different. But that's what everybody was told. If he had a
lower leg issue, why wasn't he sitting on the bench getting ice? And you already start the process.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. You got to believe action. Sometimes, just because they're real nice and real coy, and being honest, the actions of what's going on tells you what really happened. And I'm not saying that. I don't believe that was the case. He wouldn't have been laced. He wouldn't even had his helmet on. Like everybody was doing that with Levis. But y'all don't want to do it with D-Hop. Because, see, people want to believe what they want to believe instead of what is actually right in front of their face.
Yeah.
Levis had his head stretched out, but he was injured. He wanted to come back in too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, see, so he could have been injured, but he thought he could still play.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
you said he wasn't injured. I don't know if he,
I was saying that's what you were saying.
No. I'm saying you saying he was injured.
Yes,
but I'm talking
and we
about
know Levis was injured and had his helmet on.
Right. But what I'm getting at is, but he could still play with the injury, and he didn't feel like it was something that he needed to be, and they just found that excuse to take him out. See, it was just convenient that he got somewhat nicked up, don't you think?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he got injured, had a lower leg injury to begin the year as well.
No, he had a knee injury.
I mean, your knees. I mean, I consider that your lower leg.
I was thinking calf or something.
Yeah.
Not the same injury. Yeah. But it was just funny how it just came out of nowhere, though. I just that was weird, and then now all of a sudden he's traded. I don't know.
Well, they came calling. So Kansas City's the ones that came calling. That was reported by Ian Rappaport. So, I mean, you would have to have the foresight to know that someone was going to call this week if that was the deal.
That's what we've been told.
Yeah.
But we don't know if that wasn't the truth beforehand. We don't know that.
So now we're going to Ian Rappaport. This is just, I'm just interested. I'm just asking questions.
Right,
so
no, I'm good.
Ian Rappaport, who was probably told by Kansas City that this was the phone call, is now that's not necessarily true.
See, you're going by Ian Rappaport.
Yeah.
I'm going by agents. Agents dictate in this world how it all works in the football industry.
Yeah.
So the agent is the one that already didn't talk to the Chiefs before Ian Rappaport even gets the signal in the red flag to say, hey, man, there's probably going to be a trade. The agents control the NFL.
Yeah.
And so the agent said, hey, man, you wanted me to reach out. Remember, D-Hop, this all started. You know when this really started? When D-Hop said, I don't want to be traded. I want to stay here. That was the signal, bat signal, that, there's a possibility D-Hop's going to get traded. And that's when conversations start talking all around the league. All the way around the league, not just the Chiefs. So let me get it straight. I wasn't there. I wasn't on the phone call.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's what really happened. And then it came down to it at the end. There was going to be someone that was going to bite. Who was it going to be? We need to protect our asset here so we can make sure we walk away with what we think we should get. That's what I'm getting. This game is out of hand.
You're starting to sway me. I'm starting to buy in on this theory.
The game is out of hand. The game is out of hand. And we need to make sure we protect that side. That's just how the game works. Now, I'm not saying that actually happened, but I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah. I like it. I'm buying in on this theory. I like it. When we come back, we're going to talk
Conspiracy.
more. We're going to have to talk more about Ernest Jones, that trade, why the Tennessee Titans are fire selling, why this is the right move for the team, and talk about patience and resets because there are still people who listen to our show. And I know they were listening yesterday and did not hear that Chad Brinker was talking about patience and rebuilding. And so we're going to have to play that clip again because that was plan A for this team. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone.
Yeah. Hey guys, this is Blaine for Edge Peptide Therapy. And listen, I've been hearing about peptides and peptide therapy now for a few months and was curious. So I finally went to Edge Peptide Therapy to find out more. And they did a full blood panel that showed where my body had some small deficiencies. And then they came up with a tailor-made plan to address those areas with peptides. And since I've started my peptide therapy, man, I know I'm full of energy and focus. And this month, Edge is offering a special on their recovery peptides. And recovery peptides are great for healing post-injury or surgery. You recover quicker from your workouts and, from your joint pain, aches and pains and arthritic pain, and back, knee, elbow, all those things. I had overall inflammation from old and new sports injuries, in particular for me, my playing days. So recovery peptides help with all of this. So if you're looking for an alternative to surgery, consider talking to Edge first. And this month, Edge is offering $150 off your first peptide package for new clients. So why not get started now? So go to edgepeptide.com. That's right, edgepeptide.com, or you can just give them a call. It's 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Hello, I'm Ashley Northington, Chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. The upcoming transit referendum is a game changer for our economy, business leaders, and the entire community. A robust transit system is essential for a thriving economy. With 54 miles of high-capacity transit corridors and 86 miles of new sidewalks, this plan enhances Nashville's connectivity, making it easier for everyone to get where they need to go. This isn't just about transportation, it's about economic empowerment. For business leaders, reliable transit means a more productive workforce. Shorter commutes boost productivity and job satisfaction, helping businesses attract and retain top talent. Improved transit also drives sales and supports local economies by making it easier for customers to reach businesses. The benefits extend to the entire community, connecting people to essential services, education, and recreation. This creates a more inclusive city where everyone can access the resources they need to thrive. Supporting the Choose How You Move transit referendum is an investment in our future. This is about creating a city where businesses can flourish, residents can thrive, and the community enjoys a higher quality of life. Join me in backing this transformative opportunity. Let's build a Nashville where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and to prosper. Visit the link in the caption to learn more about the referendum, how it will support our community, and how you can get involved. Thank you.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Cover 2 here on 104.5 The Zone. I'm Zach Lyons and joined by Blaine Bishop. Powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. We're going to be going to your phones here in just a minute. So if you want to get in on the conversation, get your reactions, let it all loose, if you will, here on the show, you can do that. And of course, there is the F&M Bank chat over on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. Those guys are being active. They're loving the name. The name and the logo is a hit for sure, Blaine. So Cover 2, we did a good job. Thanks to all those people that, essentially pushed us towards that direction.
To the finish line.
To the finish line. Oh, yeah. So a lot has been talked about this offseason and everything. And I was in the Ramon Kayla Will chat this morning, kind of seeing Ramon is throwing some YouTube comment hands on some people, talking about he was fighting back. Really? He was getting a little spicy in there.
What?
But a couple of the things I saw, because I think Ramon RK Dub were talking about rebuilding and all this kind of stuff, and everybody's like, well, that's not what they said. That was not the first plan. Well, I'm going to play this again because we played it yesterday, and the people saying it, I know were in this chat yesterday. So they heard this clip. Just in case you did not hear this clip, here is the clip from Chad Brinker on the Official Titans podcast back in February, talking about hope and patience in this offseason.
Hope is a powerful thing. We're hopeful that the fan base sees that and is excited about what we're doing now. Turn this thing around. I mean, it's not overnight. I mean, it's going to take some time, and we're going to work really hard. And you just never know where this can go. But we understand that there needs to be a little patience involved in building a roster. It's going to be focused, methodical approach where we're trying to get first downs before we get touchdowns. But maybe our quarterback develops into one of the great young stars of our league. You just never know what can happen. And
so there you go. He's talking about the methodical approach, talking about could take years, it could take time, preaching hope and patience. But I'm going to take it a step further. Mm-hmm. I went and found Rand Carthon talking about this offseason, also on the Official Titans podcast, also in February. And he uses the term reset. And when he is talking about reset, he's talking about everything from the processes to the culture, to the foundation. This is a complete reset from how things have been done in years past. Here's Rand Carthon on the Official Titans podcast.
It's all new, and we have systems to put in place. And, again, it's going to be a little bit of a reset, because we were doing things a certain way last year. And now, we got to reset it and adjust to what we have now. And hopefully this will be the way that we'll do things for the next 10 to 15 years.
So there you go. They're setting a foundation. And obviously, through this whole thing, what you're seeing right now is, okay, Chad Brinker said maybe our young quarterback turns into the next big thing or whatever, the next guy. He's not. Okay, I think they have all now realized that. And we heard from Brian Callahan a couple of days ago where he's talking about, hey, me, Rand, and Miss Amy, we're all on the same page with how this evaluation is going.
I got some pushback on you. You think they believe right now that Levis is not the answer?
I'm going to get to this later, but I think that trading DeAndre Hopkins is one of the next steps of they are pretty much leaning, I would say, one way or the other. Because I do think that, first off, trading DeAndre Hopkins is not going to hinder Will Levis's development. I know that, and that's something that Brian Callahan also talked about. We'll get to that later. But to me, I'm not thinking that, I don't think this is as big as a deal as everybody wants to make it out to be as far as Will Levis's development or stunting his growth. I think we've kind of seen what Will Levis is and what he is, and I think that the people that are around him all the time, just saying, throwing this out there, here's a little theory of my own, a little conspiracy theory of my own. Brian Callahan was asked, who are the leaders on this team on the offense side of the ball? Will Levis was not among the ones that were listed. Tony Pollard, Lloyd Cushenberry, J.C. Latham, Tyler Boyd, Tajay Spears were all listed, but not the quarterback. So just a little maybe, Freudian slip, I guess you could say. Just want to throw that out there.
I kind of like that.
You like it? But I do kind of feel like it's kind of leaning that way inside the building, because if you really thought that, okay, we still got to figure out what Will Levis is, or we're not 90% sure, 80% sure, you probably would have kept DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe, I would think. And they're not done trading. So we'll see about that.
Now, I have a theory on the D-Hop.
Okay.
And I think, and I may be wrong, but I'm trying to theorize what I think maybe could be happening. Maybe, when you're a 1 and a 1B, they just can't figure out how that works in this new offense. And now extracting one of the ones now makes it easier to make sure you know who's the one, especially when the guy that you just paid should be getting the rock. So then maybe there was, I don't want to say friction, but let's say, hey, I'm still the dude. No, I'm the new dude on the block. So maybe a little bit of that was happening. And I'm going to just say this and frame it like this. Chemistry amongst who is what role and defined with clarity. Now you don't have any issue, really is the go-to guy, and let's see if now he gets into a rhythm and a flow and can't stop dropping the ball. And I believe he's still going to drop the ball. He's just going to catch more of them now.
Well, I will say this: DeAndre Hopkins hadn't gotten a lot of the targets, surprisingly enough, either. But when
I talk about mess up rhythm and flow, though, that means you also are looking at a guy. That means you threw to him. Then that now messes up.
I do think this forces. I'm with you. So I agree with that. Because one of the things that people got in my mentions. Well, this hurts your young quarterback. It's like, no, this may actually force him to go through his progressions quicker.
Because him and D
could
had a
actually
relationship.
help. Yeah,
they had a relationship.
So this is from Warren Sharp at Sharp Football, who writes one of the best books over the summer every year, breaking down the entire NFL. The DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs trade makes a ton of sense from a utility perspective. The Titans didn't have a high wide receiver target rate because Will Levis can't accurately hit one downfield. The Chiefs couldn't have a high wide receiver target rate because they didn't have any wide receivers to target. I think that's the best way to put it. We're going to go straight to the phone, 615-737-1045. We're going to go to Willie in Antioch who wants to talk about hope and patience. Willie, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Blaine and Zach. Good evening, fellas. I love what y'all do. I came up with the term the Wonder Twins. 1 o'clock every evening when y'all come on the air, y'all hit them fists together, and I mean both of y'all play y'all role, and I really appreciate that every day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But this patience and rebuild thing here, I am real. Actually, I'm neighbors of season ticket holders that have said they are quite fed up with the whole scenario. From the owner to the GM to what they're putting out there on the field. And me as a taxpayer, I am not a Titan fan, but Blaine and Zach, is this what we putting in $1 billion stadium down there? That is mine that I pay for. And first, the question I'm asking to both of y'all. And the second question is, I am got to be baffled how this organization is being ran. I'm thinking about the Houston Texans down there. You remember they actually gave them the boot. They bought them a Greyhound ticket and sent them up the road. They happened to stop right here in Nashville, Tennessee, right there, and we picked them up. We gave them a job. Ever since then, Blaine and Zach, they have not provided what we have thought that they should have been putting out there on the field. Because, Blaine, you remember them days back there when all the offense was liable back there, but tight end, quarterback, running back, offensive line, all of that. This organization has never went back to the way it was built on to win. Why are we here still talking about the same thing over 20 years later, and we ain't done nothing about it? Is it time for us to get them a Greyhound bus ticket and send them home, or do we still keep going to the same paces and rebuild and get used to it and let them do it for another 10 years before we decide it's time to get that Greyhound bus ticket? I'm going to hang up and let go. And listen to what you have to say, fellas. Keep up the good work. Love what y'all do.
Appreciate it, man. Be careful on that Greyhound bus there, banging on that dashboard.
The team that you're seeing right now is not going to be the team that's there in 2027 or 2028 whenever the stadium opens up. So, I mean, I get what the taxpayer thing. I get the frustration, but this is where the patience has to come in because they talked about this being a reset. Heck, even today, Brian Callahan was asked a question about how can you keep these young players and build a foundation and keep them motivated and all this stuff? Build a new foundation. He goes, we're not building a new foundation. We're just building a foundation, period. Like, they are building a foundation right now. And that's why, J.C. Latham, Tyjae Spears is mentioned as some of these leaders that are growing into the leadership roles, because they're building something. San Francisco, the Lions, the Cincinnati Bengals all had to build something. But for you to build something, sometimes you have to tear something down. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what they're doing. We'll talk about the why that is and why the philosophy is get the draft picks, right? That's it, the main thing right now. Your takeaway needs to be they're getting all these draft picks. Amy Adams-Strunk is communicating with Rand and Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker, more than likely, and they're going through this process of seeing what trades come in, what trade offers come in, decide to make the trade, right? That's they're probably going to be the ones using these draft picks. I think that's another signal, another layer, another thing added to the fact that this isn't going to be a one and done for this crew, I feel like. It feels like everybody's on the same page right now.
Yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. I know a lot of fans are upset, and they want to, everybody get fired and all that. I think absolutely they're going to be here at least at worst case scenario 1 more year to do another draft, see if they can get their quarterback or figure out who that quarterback is, and then move forward. I think. Did they think it was going to be this bad? I really believe, man, sometimes, and I've said this numerous times, is sometimes you could put together some real good pieces to parts and they just don't work together well. And, you look at just like high school sports. This is high school football. You can look at a team that has maybe one Division I player on their team. Maybe. But they play well together and got a whole bunch of hard workers, mostly Division II, and most of them not even going to go play college ball. And they win state. You go, how did they beat the team that has 5 Power 5 players on their team? Guess why? Because they don't understand how to work as a unit.
Yeah.
How to work well together, because it just doesn't work well together. And the chemistry just never happened. Where the worker bees, the hard worker guys, they know how to work together.
Yep.
So I think some of that was going on with this group that he put together, because they were talented enough and better than the record that they're showing. Mm-hmm. And so I think some of these pieces and parts maybe just didn't fit to work well together.
And that happens, right? I mean, free agency, that's why you're supposed to supplement roster building with free agency, something that Chad Brinker talks about. But to be honest, you have to field a team, right? And you're trying to find good players that address the needs. It's a good process. The results have been bad on some of these things. But that happens, right? Sometimes a bad process leads to a good result. Sometimes a good process leads to a bad result. That happens in the NFL at a really high clip rate across the league. It's not. I know everybody's very ingrained to the Tennessee Titans in this market, but when you look at a lot of, more often than not, your have-nots, I guess you could say, the ones that don't have a quarterback on their roster that is worth building around, they run into these issues all the time. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to the quarterback. And this is why you go look at even Shanahan, his first year, right? 2017. He took over a team with a losing record. They went and traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, the guy that he wanted, right? The guy that he wanted. And it ended up, they still went on a 9-game losing streak. And now Jimmy Garoppolo made a Super Bowl appearance, right? So this stuff sometimes just happens, and this is why you have to have patience, because if not, you're just rotating stuff, right? Mm-hmm. You just fired a head coach. So you're going to fire a head coach another year later, and then guess what? All this is going to be the same. You're going to see the same issues, the same newness, the same time to gel. That's why I'm not saying that Brian Callahan is the answer 100% right. Sure. But I believe in his coaching history, the coaching tree that he comes from. All those coaches usually get to a point of success. And sometimes it takes a little while. I think this is why you got to be a little bit patient. Let's go to Bobby in Nashville and wants to talk about Will Levis. Bobby, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Blaine. Hey, Zach. I got a question that Blaine may be able to answer. Will Levis, you've said, has all the tools he needs to be a great quarterback.
Yeah.
But he needs an education. Now, I've been thinking about it. What do Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love all have in common, aside from being great quarterbacks? They had great quarterbacks to watch. If Will Levis had somebody to teach him timing, would he be a better quarterback? And I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
What do you think about that? I mean, because he had Ryan Tannehill last year. I mean, he's nothing to snub your nose at. I know it didn't end great, but I mean, that's a guy that can teach you the basics.
How to manage the game for sure.
Does he want to be taught? That may be the other side of this.
That's a serious question. Does he want to be taught?
Or is he willing to be listened? I mean, him and Mason Rudolph have a weird dynamic on the sidelines where he's not really around Mason when he's not playing in the game, and Mason, it's just something that you see on, like you say, actions on the sidelines. So it just seems a little odd.
Man, I want to lean into, there's a fine line when you're an athlete and you're learning and growing, and yet you have this will, and I'm going to give it some form of a stubborn will about you too. It can't leak over into having an open mind about things. Now, if it causes confusion, where you're getting taught one thing and one coach saying one thing and another coach saying another, then you're going to go down the road of, the path of least resistance. So I don't know him personally, so I can't say that. I want to believe that he's a hard worker and more faster. Now, sometimes you have to guide him down a road that he's not thinking about. And I think we've kind of discussed some of those things, and maybe that's what you're referring to. Where to help him with his thought process, to keeping his mind clear and free instead of listening to all the noise. And it's a learned, thing that you have to do even at this level once you get to the pro level, because it's heightened to a whole nother level from the SEC. So I'm interested to see. That's probably where I would say maybe that could be possible.
Let's go to Nate in Omaha, Nebraska, that wants to talk about the organization. Nate, you're on with Blaine and Zach, and the lines are loaded right now, by the way.
Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Great.
Man, I love your show, man. I love listening to the Hitman Insight. I've been listening to a lot of these sport talk shows, and I'll be like, man, where do they find these guys at? But I want to talk about the organization, man. It's you can't give up on a guy after 4 or 5 games. You gotta give him a chance to. He done showed some flashes, but he done messed up, and that's what you expect. It's really his rookie year. So, you just gotta ride with it, man. And I know we're losing, and I want to be like, where's Big Jeff at? He's supposed to be this big game record, and he ain't got paid all this money. Where he at? And thanks for taking my call, guys.
No problem, Nate. We definitely, I think this show, maybe more than most, have been objectively critical and fair about the same thing that you're complaining about with Jeff Simmons. Where has Jeff Simmons been? I totally agree. What do you think? I think we also both agree that there is a limit to how much you could just ride with Will Levis, because there are 52 other players in this locker room. So where are you at with that? I'm kind of like a let Levis ride, because Mason Rudolph ain't going to really be much better. But now Rudolph will probably get more snaps this week with the first team, it sounds like. So maybe we see a little bit better Rudolph. But I'm kind of like, just ride with Levis.
Yeah. I think after Rudolph, unless he plays, really well and they win a game that they're not supposed to win, I think whenever he's healthy, you're going to give him that shot. And that could be the last 5, 6, 8 games, whatever it is, Levis, and see where he's at. But this is a different era. I know someone's on here was talking about Warren Moon, who was the great legendary throw the football and it whistled by my ear as a rookie there, and he had some ups and downs during that year, and then they dismantled the team. And you got to give credit to the late great Mr. Adams at that point in time. He told us in training camp my rookie year, and I was just a kid, like dang, he said, we're going to dismantle this team. We're going to win a Super Bowl. And I said, oh, man, I'm going to get cut. But that's what I thought. I worry about getting cut. And he said, no, we have a lot of high-priced players on this team, and if we don't make Super Bowl,
there you go.
It's over. And then after that, we didn't make it. We lost in the second round to Joe Montana Chiefs. he dismantled the team.
There you go.
He did. He did. So, and that's the next year is when we weren't very good. I think that was on that 2-14 team. So it happens. And then they drafted McNair, and then he sat and waited behind Chandler. Now, the difference is you don't have time to wait like that. And he literally sat for 2.5, 3 years. I mean, he got in a game here or two there, but, he really didn't start till he got here. Like, that was the beginning. He had some ups and downs then. I remember fans booing him. I was like, oh, my gosh. What is going on here? But he had the mental fortitude and the mental toughness to say, let me show you now. And see, I just don't know. You got to have some success to get to that point when you start having some failures. And even Warren Moon, who then showed he still had a lot left in the tank with Minnesota, the Seahawks, and everybody else at that point in time at the end of his career, that you can fight through that. So I really want to see him play, to your point about playing and putting him back out there. I do want to see him play more and see if he can fight through it, because you just never know. The light could click on.
It could. Maybe some of this DeAndre Hopkins being out of there, maybe it's kind of like a signal for him. Maybe that's a turning point. We'll see.
We don't know.
We'll see. Mm-hmm. When we come back, we'll get to more of your phones. We got Gene, Paul, Ryan, and about 4 more callers. So 615-737-1045 if you want to get in on the conversation on the next segment. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach on 1045 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Stores. 615-737-1045 if you want to get in while the phone lines are open. We got a bunch of phone calls to get to, so I'm just going to jump right in. And we are going to go to Paul in Nashville, who needs to understand the trade rationale from the Titans today. Paul, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Oh, yeah. I'm just wondering what the rationale is for winning by getting rid of your best players, Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard, A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, who could have been a great mentor for Levis. I don't understand the rationale of you winning by getting rid of your best players. Could you explain that?
Yes. Well, I mean, so it's kind of works like this. Derrick Henry obviously also did not want to come back, so that's a little bit different. I mean, I guess, he was very open to the idea for the Ravens for about a year and a half when you listen to all the reports and everything. Ryan Tannehill, he wants starter money. He wants to be the starter. He was here last year. The other trades don't really matter for this organization at this point as far as what this regime wants to do. But at the end of the day, what they're wanting to do is to build for the future, because they're not in a Super Bowl window anymore, and all those guys and all those moves pretty much, like, keeping all those guys around means you're still trying to recapture the glory days, and there is no glory days to recapture. Mike Vrabel, John Robinson pretty much ran that into the ground. So that's my thoughts on that. What about you, Blaine? Anything to add?
No, not really. I think time was up. The time was right, even with the head coach. So I actually thought that they should have tried to get value out of those players.
Mm-hmm.
And, to tip the cap to Amy, she held on to superstar, Henry, the King, till his contract was up, because that never happens and that's why they're, letting D-Hop and the people who are in their last years of their deals, those are the ones that, aren't going to be back. So, no, I thought they made the right moves at the time.
All right, we're going to go to Ryan in Gallatin, who wants to talk about the offensive line and Will Levis. Ryan, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, the offensive line, I really got hyped, and I'm really disappointed. I thought that we would be so much better, which would make anybody who played behind it better. If you all remember, Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is, looked very pedestrian against the Bucs whenever he was down a couple offensive linemen. And I think we're 1-5. The pressure is off to win. Let's put Levis back in when he's healthy. Let it rip. What made Favre so great was he played free, and he had a short memory. And that's all I got.
Love it.
And that's key, though. Do you think Will Levis has a sharp memory?
No. I think by the way that he talks after the pressers, the way that he's handling himself currently on the sidelines, after he throws those interceptions, because if he had a short memory, there wouldn't be these lapses of energy on the sidelines after a turnover. There'd be some, motivation, some raw energy. And so I think he dwells. I don't think he has short-term memory. So unfortunately, you have to have that in this business. But I do agree with his comment. Just let it rip and let Levis play. I'm kind of in that as well. We're going to go to Rashad in Houston, Texas, who wants to talk about the Titans. Rashad, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yes. I live in Houston. I was here with the Oilers, then with the Tennessee Titans. What the Tennessee fans don't understand is you got a football team. We did the same way with Bud Adams, which was hit the door. He hit the door, went to Tennessee. We built a baseball stadium. Then we had to build a football stadium for the Houston team right now. All y'all got to do is let Ron sit there and build a team. You don't have an offensive line. You don't have receivers. You don't have a quarterback. And you don't have draft picks. What are you trying to do? He's trying to clean out. He's trying to get as many picks as he's going to have. You're going to get a comp pick for Derrick Henry. You're going to get a comp pick for Fuller and the Chargers. You're going to get another comp pick for the linebacker sitting here in the Texans. So stop crying. Let them build. And go from there. You're going to be taxpayers. Titans going to leave. You will not have no football team. But the Tennessee Volunteers. And what they going to do? Stop crying. Let the people do their job and move on.
Thanks, Rashad. I agree. Just let I'm not here to say let Rand cook. I think that ship I think fans love to create these things. The NJ Rob we trust, the let Rand cook kind of deal. And I get it. It's all fun. I mean, it's all fun. But I think it goes to a certain point where it gets a little too like. Okay. It's more motto than it is actually just a fun little nickname. But I do think that, and I think there's some other people on the thing, I think this current regime is at least going to get one more year to put their plan in place because they're just starting with their plan. They were working last year under an old plan, under an old vision. This is all new. We've heard Rand say it. We've heard Chad Brinker say it. This is all new.
So this is their first year, though?
To me, this is their first year.
I would agree with that, yeah. But a lot of people are going to want to go back and blame them for because they were actually there.
And it'll be interesting. We got some clips where we can talk about, a little bit of the whose decision was Will Levis when we, at some point today, if we can get to it, because I want to get to your phones. And we also have Jordan Dajani on at 2:20 p.m. We're going to get what he's hearing around the NFL, what he's hearing about the Tennessee Titans. We'll get into all of that. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's Ramon Foster, 104.5 The Zone. Blending digital and also radio is one of the best things you can do. One, you get a lot of people in their cars that listen to us, and on the digital side, we can also show your products, talk about your products, see us, speak about you. So if you're in the business of wanting to be bigger, have a brand that everyone knows about, have me, Ramon Foster, or anyone at 104.5 The Zone endorse you, and I promise you, it'll be exactly what you want.
It's Rhett Bryan from 104.5 and of course Titans Radio, inviting you to join our team. If your business needs some promotion, needs some movement, I got 4 little letters for you. EPIC, E, everyone is invited on these offers. P, please contact your local representative when I give you this link and we'll get you started. I, include all of your pertinent information when you hit that link. And see, Cumulus Media. It's not just an audio company. We're not just radio. There are all kinds of digital products because you're watching this right now. It's gonna be epic. All you do is go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
What's happening is Ron Slade, known as Big Slade, all the things, man. Nashville born and bred, right here on 3HL 104.5 The Zone. Listen, man, you're thinking about advertising with us with digital, radio, whatever it may be, all of the above under the umbrella. Get with us. Let me do it. I promise you. I'll get it sold for you. You nobody welcome me. Look at the smile. Look at that. You see what I'm saying? 1045thezone.com/epic. Go to that. Get involved. Let's make a joint party. Let's do a lot of little things like let's hold hands, run down the street, celebrate. All this little stuff. You know what it is. Let's go.
Hour number 2 of Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons, 615-737-1045, The Zone. We're also powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors and, of course, the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And real quick, before we get to the phone calls, I just want to put this out there. I've talked about this since I've been on the show. I've talked about this on Titans Up Talk. We finally got the clip. I finally went back and found it, took the time to find it, where Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports last year, after the Tennessee Titans picked Will Levis a couple months into the season when he was getting the start, Charles Robinson went on My Man Michael Smith podcast for 11 months ago to talk about Will Levis and how the pick came about and who allegedly is behind the pick. So here's Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, the way he ended up with the Titans. I mean, I don't know if the story will ever get fully told, but I think it was very much an ownership-inspired draft pick. I do believe that. I think that if it were entirely Mike Vrabel who were making the decision, I think they might have, instead of investing, 2 picks. Now, looking back, obviously, there can be some alteration of memory looking back, but I think at the time, Mike Vrabel would have loved to have had 2 other, those 2 picks that turned into Will Levis. He would love to have been able to invest those 2 picks into, other parts of the depth chart. They had just taken Malik Willis in the 3rd round the year before.
So there you go. So ownership-inspired pick. I know that he has stuck with that story multiple times throughout the year and everything. We've heard other people report also that this wasn't Mike Vrabel wasn't truly on board with Will Levis and all this stuff. But this was an ownership-inspired pick. So again, just to go through the first 2 draft picks of last year that we know of, Mike Vrabel had a heavy hand in Peter Skoronski. Let's call that a head coach-inspired pick. And then you have an ownership-inspired pick in the 2nd round that not everybody was on board with. This is how you sow dissension and chaos. But this is also why I view Rand Carthon is in year 1 of the GM, because now he has a voice. It did not sound like from all these different things that he really had a voice. Mike Vrabel, Andre Dillard as well.
Wow, I thought they needed a quarterback. I don't know if they needed to trade up kind of on the Vrabel train, but they could have got Hooker and sat there in the 3rd round. I don't know if Vrabel still didn't want to get a quarterback just because Malik.
I think it was more about the trade than anything else.
Okay, yeah, because Malik Willis wasn't giving you a lot at that time. He was slowing his development, and now that he got developed, and then they shipped him off, so they didn't believe in him either. And that's funny that he developed and at a rapid rate, really over 2 years from the time he played the first time to now. So those things happen. You can't predict that. And, I still, man, if you look at Levis's skill set and his arm strength and talent, he's a high level player. So, I can't fault him for the pick. What you got to do is just say, hey, what's the analogy that say you should pick a quarterback every year? Well, that's kind of
every 2 or 3 years. That's exactly what Chad Brinker said as well. So he said that's what he was taught until you don't have the guy until you have the guy. And that's where the Tennessee Titans are at. Just let's make sure that ownership-inspired pick does not really present itself again later on down the road. I always find it best when ownership kind of takes a step back and let the football people do football things, in my opinion. Let's go to Corey in Hendersonville, who wants to talk the impact of not trading Derrick Henry last year. Corey, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Blaine and Zach. Glad you guys got a cool name, Cover 2, for the show. I think that sounds really good. And I did want to talk about Derrick Henry and the impact of not trading him last year. If you look, the teams that were ahead of us in the draft were all 4-13, and the Commanders had the tiebreaker based on strength of schedule. But if we had traded Derrick Henry either right before the trade deadline, which was October 31st, we had 3 games that we won after the deadline that he had an integral part in helping us win. The Panthers, which we barely won, he scored 2 touchdowns. The Dolphins game, we won by 1. He scored 2 touchdowns. And the final game of the season, which was the farewell tour or whatever, 153 yards and a touchdown. And if you even look at the Falcons game that Levis debuted in, Henry had 100 yards in that game, and that was the game before the trade deadline. If they had traded him before that, you could easily say that Titans probably would have lost at least 2 of those games. That would have moved us into a better draft position. We wouldn't have had to take J.C. Latham. We could have gotten, Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors, or maybe even if we had lost 3 of those games, we could have been able to draft Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I agree, Corey. That was it was a big misstep, and that has its own issues, and that has everybody at some point in time has gotten blamed for not wanting to trade Derrick Henry. So I don't know who really didn't want to trade Derrick Henry last year, but someone didn't. But you hear Amy one week, you hear Mike Vrabel the next, you hear Rand Carthon another time. But I think we both agree that was a bad move, and that's why you go ahead and trade DeAndre Hopkins, because obviously you've likely have learned that you just don't let a guy go for free in free agency if your team is not winning. And get the draft pick while you can get the draft pick, and that's what they failed to do with Derrick Henry last year, because I was a big proponent of that.
Yeah, I was a big proponent of trading even before the season started, him as well as Byard and Tannehill, to be honest, because they all were in their final year of their contract, and they're going to get to walk free, and you have no value. And to me, they didn't think that they thought they were going to be still good, and I thought they weren't. So to me, that was the year. That's funny. The caller says that. And then also who we could have gotten. I've never taken it to the next layer. Oh, man, we could have picked this guy because we probably wouldn't have won this many games because Henry was playing, right? Oh, wow.
And I do want to say something, because this, I think, Chosen 522 brings up a good point, going back to the ownership-inspired pick. I'm kind of just saying that it's Amy because she is the main figurehead of the ownership, but it's really an ownership group. So maybe I just need to keep that in mind. That is an ownership-inspired pick. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was technically Amy. Could have been someone else that's involved in that little group, that family dynamic there. Just throwing it out there.
I never see them in the
I never see it either, but I just want to throw that out there. I'll just stick to ownership is the reason why that this Levis pick was inspired. We're going to go to Jake in Boston who wants to talk about Levis. Jake, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, what's up, guys? Before Levis, on the Amy purportedly blocking the Derrick trade, and also you were talking about the prior one on the Levis pick, whatever she can do to get her and the rest of the ownership group's hands out of what's been really consistent meddling over her entire tenure would be good. So hopefully that can happen moving forward, because it's just not going to be good if that goes on. But on Levis, quick story. The East-West Shrine Bowl, it's not the Senior Bowl, but the other one that runs in Vegas. I'm not going to name the guy's name, but he's pretty high up in the marketing and kind of player acquisition for that event. Know him through a friend of a friend. Had a conversation with him probably last winter-ish, early spring after the season, and basically called Levis weak-minded and was like, the Titans are going to be back in the QB market next year. And at the time, I was kind of I didn't love him before the draft, but I saw the flashes. Seems kind of crazy. And I would agree with you that you look at his demeanor on the sidelines and sort of the way he talks about things, that would seem to be the case. And, on the other side of that, in terms of how to fix that, I would never advocate for drug use, but I think he could benefit from a darkness retreat, going and doing some acid in the woods and forgetting about some stuff, because he's pretty awful across the board in his mannerisms. So, cheers, guys.
You go in the Aaron Rodgers route for Will Levis.
That's what I would say more of that than what he was saying. I don't know about that. Woo, he scared me for a little bit there, man.
Well, we're going to go to another Jake. We're going back-to-back Jakes here. Jake in Nashville wants to talk about the prospective trade for a player versus giving a player. So, Jake, you're on. Jake in Nashville, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
He is not on acid.
Hi, y'all. I was just kind of reacting to these trades that have happened. I agree with them completely. I love the idea of getting some sort of value out of a wasted season, but in that, I don't think we should completely punt on this season. I think looking ahead to our schedule, we have many games I think we'll lose with our current quarterback. And the thought of going 2-14, or I guess 2-15, it will lead to free agents not liking us. It already happened because we're the Titans, but it's not a good thing, obviously, to be at the bottom of the barrel. and I don't really like the quarterbacks. So I'm going to suggest the guy that Callahan has worked with very recently and fits his scheme, and he also shares my name, Jake Browning. The highest completion percentage last year. His value can't be that high at the moment. Maybe we trade them a fourth and the corpse of Chidobe Awuzie back to them, or Quandre Diggs, someone. They have a terrible secondary. I've seen every game. And, I'm not saying this just because I'm a Jake, but I watched Jake Browning. He's much better than the opinion. I agree with the last caller. I think Levis is very immature. He's not really a quarterback in my sense. Like, I would not like my quarterback to act the way he acts. And obviously, like, he's very in tune to the media, and the media sees him as a joke, essentially, and I think that's hurting his play as well. Like, if you look on Twitter and search Will Levis, you don't get some good responses. He's just a joke. And Mason Rudolph is even worse than that. So that's my opinion. Maybe see what we have in Jake Browning, and then if you have value there, like, that's a good bridge quarterback. But I just don't like Shedeur Sanders. I don't like Quinn Ewers. I don't like any of them. So that's my opinion.
Cam Ward?
I do like Cam Ward, but that would require having the first overall pick.
Well, you may be getting it. I mean, listen, coaches coach, players play. Everybody's under a contract that turns into your motivation right now because you also got to put stuff on tape, right? Blaine, we talked about that a couple of times now, where the motivation for this team, for the players, is to put stuff on tape to make sure that they are not. They still got to play to win games because what you're doing out on the field directly reflects about who you are as the player, what schemes you can fit, what systems you can fit, your motivation, all that kind of stuff is like, you keep on playing. That's just how the NFL is kind of working right now.
And I'm going to say this before we go to break. Everybody keeps talking about, like, but we got to develop a quarterback, but the other guys, you may lose the locker room. Guess what? What's the most important position on the team?
Quarterback.
Yeah. I think the organization says, y'all better do your job, and we'll worry about who the quarterback is. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports, and we're going to go around the NFL with him, talk about the latest moves, what he's hearing, what's going on in Carolina, where Bryce Young is coming back to the starting lineup. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone.
There are a lot of diagnoses out there, and there's a pill for everything. But not all diagnoses are accurate, and not all pills are good for you. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop. When you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, you get a second opinion before you get a major decision. And Eurofix is the home of second opinions. So before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from a diagnosis, go to Eurofix. It could not only save your vehicle's life, but could actually save you from a lot of stress that ruins your weekend. And life's too short to get stressed out and angry. So be happy and go to Eurofix. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit and not high-pressure sales tactics. And at Eurofix, you also get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer pricing. Located all over the state of Tennessee, starting in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always done Blaine, y'all.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045, and of course the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. But we're going to the phone lines to talk to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports, and we're going to go around the NFL. And Jordan, obviously 2 big moves today by the Tennessee Titans, but let's start with Deandre Hopkins and how that all went down and what it means for the team, for both teams, and where they're at in the 2024 season.
Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach. Gentlemen, what's going on? I like the new name of the show. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, this has been a big name that has been rumored in trade circles for a couple of weeks now. I think it shows you that Tennessee realizes where they are sitting in the NFL standings and that they are better off trading away some assets to get back some draft compensation. I am a little surprised he's going to the Chiefs. I think that if he was not moved this morning and I was on the show with you guys, I would have pointed to the San Francisco 49ers because of the relationship that Rand Carthon has with that front office. You have Brandon Ayuk go down with an injury. It's out of conference in the NFC opposed to the AFC. But now I guess Titans fans have to root for the Kansas City Chiefs because it is a conditional pick that can become a 4th rounder if Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps and the Chiefs make the Super Bowl. The Titans are going to eat $2.5 million in salary as well. I'm really interested to see his role in this Chiefs offense, working with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You know, looking at Kansas City's offensive system, I feel like they really rely on their playmakers to create after the catch. I don't know if that's exactly what DeAndre Hopkins is at this stage in his career, but he's a very reliable pass catcher that can help move the chains. There's no doubt that the Chiefs got better today.
Okay, so moving over, I mean, the Tennessee Titans, we had you on. They traded for Ernest Jones. They traded away a 2026 fifth and to get back Ernest Jones in a 2026 sixth. And today, I'm just very confused as to the why behind the Seattle Seahawks into the trade, but they trade Jerome Baker plus a 2025 fourth for Ernest Jones. And I'm just a little confused. Like, did they want Ernest Jones initially and the Rams wouldn't trade him? I mean, like, what? They're not a linebacker away, are they, over in Seattle?
No, I wouldn't say that. But, you know, I'm with you. When the Titans traded for Ernest Jones, I thought that they would be giving him a contract pretty immediately. Instead, he plays 6 games and is off to Seattle. So, as you mentioned, the Titans turned a 2026 fifth rounder into a 2026 sixth rounder and 2025 fourth round pick. So hooray for Rand Carthon, I guess. No, but when it comes to where he went with Seattle, I have the same thoughts that you did. I hypothesized that maybe Seattle was very interested in Ernest Jones when he was playing football for the Los Angeles Rams. So, I mean, it's just another instance of Tennessee looking at some of their players that are on expiring deals. They did not reach an extension with Ernest Jones. So they saw it better as let's replace him with Jerome Baker, who, again, I don't think is as good as Ernest Jones, but also get some draft capital in return for his services.
Yeah, it's just a very odd move. And we're on with Jordan Dajani. We're going around the NFL with him as he covers the NFL for the CBS Sports.
Well, Jordan, I guess let's start with any trade surprise you, and then what trade do you think still is in the works that you think will happen?
Yeah, I don't think any trades have really surprised me. I guess I'm surprised by the amount of activity. I can put it that way. I mean, when we're talking about Devontae Adams going over to the Jets, when we're talking about Amari Cooper going over to the Buffalo Bills, those are 2 really big names and 2 really big teams. And now we have DeAndre Hopkins on his way to Kansas City. It makes me wonder if a lot of this trade deadline activity is going to take place before the trade deadline, that specific day itself. That's something to keep an eye on. But, man, I do think that there are some big names that could end up being moved. One I want to talk about is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. The Athletic reported that the Rams are talking to multiple teams about trading Kupp and that they're willing to take on some salary as well if they can get a second-round pick in return. Cooper Kupp is an older wideout who has 2 more years on his contract after 2024. So this makes sense to me with an aging receiver who has dealt with some injuries. And, of course, the Rams hit on that draft pick of Puka Nacua, who's on his way back as well. But listen, it doesn't make sense to me in a couple of other different ways. The Rams are getting healthier. And I told you guys a month ago that this is a team capable of some sort of late season playoff push when they return several pieces. And here's the other thing. Sean McVay's probably not interested in some rebuild, right? He's already flirted with retirement. So now you're telling me at 2-4, the Rams maybe want to consider punting on the year? That doesn't sound like Sean McVay to me. But Cooper Kupp, regarding those reports, is definitely a name to keep an eye on. Another big name who I think would be crazy to be traded, but it's something we got to talk about nonetheless. How about Max Crosby of the Las Vegas Raiders? One of the best players in the NFL, in my opinion, has been rumored in some trades. He's spoken about some of the drama. He's had some comments saying, he's here to win. He's not here for a rebuild, whatever that means. But, a dream fit would be the Detroit Lions, who appear to be one of the best, I think the best team in the NFL right now, filling that hole that Aiden Hutchinson left. Max Crosby's already signed a lucrative extension, so you have to factor that in. Plus, what kind of trade compensation would have to go to Vegas to acquire Max Crosby? But that's another big name that I'm keeping an eye on over the next couple weeks.
Well, speaking of eye on, who on the Titans roster right now do you think potentially could be the next player traded?
Yeah, I think that where the Titans sit right now, I think that Rain Carthon should probably be listening to offers on everybody that's not a young player or a player that was just signed in free agency. One player that I feel like is not being talked about a lot, but I feel like there's some interest from other teams around the league, not in this player, but upgrading this position specifically, and that's tight end Chigo Okonkwo. He's not been a major part on this offense with Brian Callahan. He's a versatile tight end that can make you miss in space. I feel like there might be some interested teams out there that would consider maybe giving up a day 3 pick for a guy still on his rookie contract. But, I think that, Jeffrey Simmons is a player who I think that it's been reported the Titans are not really interested in moving. But if I'm the Titans front office, I'm certainly listening to offers, whatever that may be. I think you can say the same thing about your 2 starting pass rushers, whether that be Arden Key, who I think has 2 more years remaining on his contract, or Harold Landry, depending on draft compensation as well. But, you can just go down the depth chart. Quandre Diggs, I think, has been playing some good football. Would he be a player that another team is interested in sending a day 3 pick for? I think that there are several other players who are, what do you want to state it as, maybe quote unquote in danger of being traded away from Tennessee. With where the Titans sit right now, I think it would be smart for Rand Carthon to pick up the phone whenever it rings.
One more question here, and I know this is because you're a Pittsburgh fan, and that is Fields, the quarterback, was benched for Russell Wilson. Now, there's a lot of speaking out here on Tomlin. Oh, what a great decision. Russell Wilson played really well. Great call by Tomlin. But if you look behind the scenes and look to the left, you'll see the more and more Fields plays, the higher compensation they must give the other team. Do you think that's why Fields was benched? Or was it really because Russell Wilson was the better player?
I like where your head's at, but I think it's kind of tough because Justin Fields is on a 1-year deal. And if you're looking around potential fits for a quarterback being traded, the Miami Dolphins would be an obvious one, but Tua Tagovailoa is on the way back. Speaking on Russell Wilson, we absolutely got to give credit to Mr. Unlimited, right? I was expecting disaster against the New York Jets, but for some reason, the Jets, they couldn't apply pressure on Russell Wilson with those 3 or 4 backup offensive linemen he was working with. And I think that's what really made the difference. If you're going to give Russell time to throw, which in many instances Justin Fields didn't have, he has the ability to make some throws downfield. A lot of people are praising Mike Tomlin for that 1-game sample size. I'm not ready to do that. I want to see Russell Wilson play a little bit more before I'm 100% sold that he made the right decision. Let's not act like Russell Wilson was amazing for all 4 quarters. But it certainly paid off against the New York Jets. And, again, it's a very controversial decision because I thought Justin Fields was playing the best ball of his career up to this point. Not to say that it was elite football, but the Steelers brought in Russell Wilson to be their starting quarterback. And I think that's a big reason why they gave him that chance to be inserted into the starting lineup mid-year.
Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Well, the Titans fans are all miserable, and misery loves company. And while the Houston Texans do have a winning record and sit on top of the AFC South, I did find this in your article where you answered the NFL questions entering Week 8 over on CBSSports.com. Does C.J. Stroud have a road problem? Tell the people why you think that C.J. Stroud is having an issue on the road.
Yeah, it's actually been something that's been on my mind for, I would say, a couple of months now, maybe even entering this year. You know, it doesn't seem like C.J. Stroud is as explosive on the road. And sure enough, against the Packers on Sunday, he completed 10 of 21 passes for 86 yards in a 2-point loss. Those 86 passing yards marked a career low, and just 34 of those yards came when he was targeting receivers. So I started looking into it. I enlisted the help of our CBS Sports research team, and I found out that C.J. Stroud at home is 9-2. When he's away from Houston, he's 5-6. That's a losing record, and that includes a loss to Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers last year as well. The other thing is that C.J. Stroud, he's averaging 97.6 more passing yards per game at home than on the road. And according to our research department, that's the biggest gap by any quarterback since the merger. He has 4 road starts where Stroud has failed to throw a single touchdown, and that's notable because Stroud has thrown at least 1 touchdown in every single home start. So I think it's a little too early to say, oh, wow, C.J. Stroud is this great quarterback that has huge problems on the road. We don't have that big of a sample size just yet. But at the same time, the numbers don't lie, and I feel like that's something interesting to keep an eye on as we progress through the 2024 season.
The Carolina Panthers have been labeled a dysfunctional franchise for about 2 years now, which makes sense when you look at everything that they've done. And today, it was announced just a few minutes before you came on the air that Bryce Young would be starting. And obviously, the Panthers are maybe actually worse than what we think they are. Because I think they're pretty bad. But how bad are they? What's the deal with Bryce Young getting the start, and what happens next for this team?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Panthers because everyone realizes that they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Cool. But I don't think people realize how bad they have been. I mean, they lost 40-7 to the Washington Commandskins with Titans legend Marcus Mariota at quarterback. And I found some pretty incredible historical numbers. The Panthers have allowed at least 34 points in 4 consecutive games. That's the longest streak in their franchise history. The Panthers have allowed 20 points in the first half in 6 out of 7 games this year. They're the first team in NFL history to trail by 20 points at halftime in 4 out of their first 7 games this year. I mean, you just look at the stats. I think through 7 weeks, they're 4th worst in total offense, 5th worst in scoring offense. And then on the defensive side, 3rd worst in total defense, dead last in run defense, last in scoring defense. So we understand the Panthers are bad, but you have to take a step back and remember that they mortgaged the future of the franchise to trade up for a quarterback that was Bryce Young instead of C.J. Stroud. They have a new head coach who was supposed to be this quarterback whisperer who came in, and all of a sudden his quarterback that he was supposed to turn around looks worse than he's ever looked, and he has to be benched after 2 weeks. You have a brand new general manager who has done a very bad job at constructing this roster. I mean, at the trade deadline, they're expected to move on some pieces. They're already releasing some veterans. Things are going to get worse before they get better, which is really hard to imagine. And I'm kind of fascinated to see what happens this offseason, right? How are the coaches and the decision makers going to defend their product and inspire optimism about their game plan moving forward? I know Titans fans have the same questions about their decision makers, but for the Panthers, we're talking about an all-time low. Now, in regards with Bryce Young starting this week, of course, there was a car accident. That was an unfortunate situation that led to this. But the plan all along, in my opinion, was for Bryce Young to start in the second half of the regular season. What he needed was a reset. If you watched any film on him through his first couple starts, you understood that it was something that needed to be done. There was no internal clock, no progression. He didn't look comfortable. He looked antsy behind his offensive line, which actually had been one of the better units in the NFL to start out the regular season. So we'll see if that reset helps Bryce Young, but the Panthers are going to Denver as double-digit underdogs in Week 8.
Okay, so let's say this. Bryce Young is going to Denver, right? That's what you said, correct?
Yeah, this week.
So Denver is one of the best defenses in the NFL. But let's say this. Let's say hypothetically he ends up performing really well. He looks like a new man. He looks like a quarterback that has learned something on his time on the bench. Obviously, Will Levis over here in Tennessee is not unlikely to play on Sunday. This will be his second time to be on the bench and on the sidelines. So let me ask you this. Should that give Titans fans hope if Bryce Young goes to Denver and against one of the best defenses in the NFL and actually looks good?
I want to say yes. I feel like there's probably a large portion of the Titans fan base who is out on Will Levis, and there's nothing he can really do to change their minds unless he goes out there and takes them to the playoffs. Speaking on Will Levis, I feel like it's possible whenever he comes back from this shoulder injury / soft benching, soft reset, whatever it may be. I think it's very possible that he can improve and start showing about a little bit of that promise that we witnessed in 2023. I don't think it's going to be enough for him to feel confident about his job security entering 2025. I've been telling everybody, I feel like regardless of what happens, the Titans are going to be in the quarterback market this offseason. Now, how aggressive they will be in the quarterback market, that remains to be seen. But looking at how Will Levis has played in his starts this year, I think he's looked worse than he looked as a rookie under Mike Vrabel. So I absolutely think there is tangible room for him to improve, to look better and stop turning the ball over. But again, the Titans were hoping that this guy would be their franchise quarterback, and that just doesn't appear to be the case.
That sounds about right. That will do it for Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Jordan Dajani. We really appreciate your time, going around the NFL with us and filling us in on all the goings-ons in the NFL.
Anytime, guys. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
When we come back, we're going to close up, talking about Chad Brinker's comments about the draft, about free agency and their place in the offseason, how to properly build a roster. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Tennessee, fall is in full swing, and Kool-Aid's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun and the fall. And we've got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with a free wallet quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a nice fall day. And Kool-Aid also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. And right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers, as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Kool-Aid take care of your home so you can focus on making memories. So call us today at 615-709-8699. That's 709-8699, and take advantage of these scorching hot deals. That's Kool-Aid, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee fall. That's Kool-Aid.com.
Final segment here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. We'll be going to your phones in just a second. But we wanted to hear from Brian Callahan because earlier today when he was doing his press conference, I'm gonna see what you think. I think he's alluding that there's more moves coming down the pipe. But it could just be he's talking about the moves that had already made that he can't talk about. So this is Brian Callahan at today's presser talking about potential moves for the Tennessee Titans.
All right. Started off here today, just so you guys know, we're all aware of everything that's out there. There's not anything I can comment on specifically right now due to the nature of how these things work. But definitely aware of what's out there. And look, I would expect some movement on our roster over the next period of time here, and nothing I can comment on too specifically because, again, until anything's official, there's not much to say.
I would expect more movement on our roster over this period of time here. That, to me, says that there's likely some other negotiations happening, which, of course, the phone is probably ringing because they've signaled to the NFL that they are open for business.
They put up the Titan signal?
They put up the Titan signal. What do you think about that?
Because I didn't know how we prefaced it, but I think he is talking about other players.
Yeah.
And more moves are going to be made, at least potentially. Anyway, they're going to try to, with the calls coming in and, the bad signal up there. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can really make some of these happen. I don't know anything about getting moves and the value of players. That's why I like to ask, which players actually have value. Then you say, okay, do I really want to move that guy? Like you've been talking about hookers playing well, right?
Yeah.
Well, do I really want to move him and knowing I'm going to lose Diggs next? So you say, nah, I don't think so because I have nothing behind him. So, I want to reboot and restart, but man, we could keep a guy who could still play at a high level around for 2 or 3 more years to help us through this transition.
Let's go through a list real quick. Let's 6th or 7th pick, right? Maybe some of these may be 6th or 7th round picks, but guys that you could possibly trade. I'm going to put at the top of the list Nick Folk that we haven't talked about. There are teams out there that need a kicker bad, and they have some kicker woes, and Nick Folk has proven to be a guy that can be relied upon, right now he's on a 1-year contract. That could be a guy. Sebastian Joseph Day, who has shown up pretty well, he is on a 1-year contract. That could be a guy.
He was a free agent.
He was a free agent, but he's on a 1-year contract.
No,
you could do it if you wanted to.
It was a 3-year deal, I thought.
No way.
No. They only get him for 1 year. That's the guy's replacing Autry. He's their version of Autry.
Right. The 1-year contract. Daniel Brunskill is on the last year of his contract. Offensive line injuries are starting to run rampant right up there with wide receivers. He could be a guy. You already mentioned Quandre Diggs. Tyler Boyd, I would say that's a little far-fetched, but he is a guy. A lot of wide receivers just went down. It's possible that, Tyler Boyd could be traded. People think Traylon Burks has trade value. I know Diana Rossini has put it out there. I'm like, I don't know what anybody's talking about, but she said that. Technically, maybe you get a 7th for Nick Whisper-Kikine. 1-year deal. I'm just throwing stuff out there. There's a lot of guys on 1-year deals that can maybe go to teams, obviously, besides Big Jeff, Arden Key, Harold Landry, who are still living out up some of their deals. Those guys are obviously out there. Just wanted to throw some other names out on the wall that haven't been talked about. But let's go to Ed, who has been waiting patiently, who's in New Jersey, who wants to talk about the NIL and changing draft pick success. Ed, you're on with Blaine and Zach, and thank you for holding.
Hey, guys. And Blaine, I know you were at the Senior Bowl the last couple of years, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. With the NIL, doesn't it reduce the value of these lower round picks with the amount of folks that are coming out? And I just wonder if we should reset our expectation levels on, I know we got Brownlee last year. We hit on a 5th rounder with him, but, what's truly the expectation level as you keep compiling picks in the later rounds? You're not going to get a Blaine Bishop, So I just wonder what the value we're truly getting back.
Oh, I don't know. I think you're more equipped to answer that than me.
I get it because Jim Nagy talked about it as well. I think the NFL's kind of cyclical. The COVID year also messed this up too. People got extra years of eligibility, so the day 3 picks are kind of devalued. But I think at the end of the day, you could still find value there. I think you really have to just, Chad Brinker says he watches 4 hours of tape a day, even on top of all of his responsibilities. These guys are scouts. They are scout driven, front office, and that's coming from both those guys. So I get the concern, but I think that cycle will end up just kind of evening out. But it may not be right now. But I think after the COVID years kind of wash away, the NIL stuff kind of washes away, I think it will all start balancing out, because not everybody can stay in school, 8 years, right? Like at some point, I think what you're going to see, though, is actually more prepared day 3 picks, because they are staying in school longer. They are learning more about who they are and what they are on the field. And they're probably going to have a lot more experience. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the route will be different.
That's the route I was going to go there. I thought, to me, there's a segment of me that I feel like the 5th through 7th round guys have to be contributors in some form or fashion, and I mean major contributors, because of their role. They're role players. They're not the superstar guys, but you got to hit on a lot of these guys, to me, and that whether it's your special teams, because they're still going to have that fire and they want to play and they want to prove that they can actually be a starter, and they're one play away. And so something is missing with all those guys.
Look at James Williams. He almost blocked a punt.
Right. So I think, man, they got to start hitting on some of these guys. And I think NIL helps, actually, the NFL for those later round picks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, to me, I understand everybody's concerned with maybe the later round right now, maybe not having the talent that you want. But at the end of the day, people are still going to enter the NFL draft. They may just be more now. They may be, because they are staying in college longer, they may be more prepared to contribute. Like a 7th round pick, if they contribute on special teams, you're like, oh man, that's a good 7th round pick. Now they may be ready to contribute more. I mean, we saw Jalen Harrell make a really good play the other day. That wasn't on special
Brownlee,
teams.
5th round.
Brownlee's in the 5th round, and he should have gone way earlier, because you always have those guys that drop too. So at the end, I actually think that this whole situation will actually benefit the NFL, where it's almost like, because kind of people talk about a farm league or a minor league and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, these players now staying in college view those extra years as that farm league, in my mind.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And then I think also, I know a lot of people in the chat talking about they have a 3rd round pick. Well, you got a couple 4s.
Yeah,
move up to get a 3.
You could possibly end up with 3 4s with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, even with the 5th rounds, the 6th rounds. I mean, they have 8 draft picks. That's what we have been told, that they want a minimum in every draft. And right now, they have 8 draft picks, and that's not how it's always been for this Tennessee Titans team. They haven't really always tried to get more draft picks, but right now they are wanting 8 draft picks. They got their 8 draft picks minimum. Now, what do? Do they start trading for 2026 draft picks? Mm-hmm. Because the 2026 draft is supposed to be better than the 2025 draft, supposedly. Mm-hmm. You know how those things work out, but that's what all the experts say. Maybe that's the next step. Like, franchises have to be constantly looking at not only the now, but the future, and then that future's future. Like, you are constantly looking at, the good teams are always looking at 3 or 4 years down the road.
How many in last year's draft have hit for the Titans?
So last year's draft,
got Brownlee,
Sweat. And I would say, obviously, I think Latham.
Right. First
I would also think that Jalen Harrell, for his draft position, is contributing enough. So now we need to see Cedric Gray. Jaquan Jackson's doing an okay job, but doing better than what any of the other returners have. And then we're still waiting on James Williams and Cedric Gray to really show out. That's a really good draft call. And that's where day 3 is where Rand Carthon has historically shined for the San Francisco 49ers. So this is why I preach patience. Patience. But we're all out of time, all out of patience here on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons. 3HL's up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.